I work with, live amongst, and study all things paranormal. So I thought I'd share some of the stories from my neck of the woods. And if the path leads, we'll journey further on together. Yorkshire is home to so many myths, legends, paranormal stories. All legends have to start from something. We have tales of ghosts and of spirits, of black dogs, of beasts and wolves, and of things far beyond our realm of existence. So I'm going to try to share some of these stories of ordinary folk in extraordinary circumstances. Welcome to Haunted Stories. Beverley is a historical market town in the East Riding of Yorkshire. Founded in 700 AD, it still features a 15th century bar gate, still thought to be 900 years old. The beautiful Guildhall keeps many secrets, but one has slipped through the cracks. George wanders the hall, appearing on a daily basis. Thought to be a mace-bearer, his portrait hangs in this parlour, and he is not afraid to let anyone know of his presence. If workmen leave the place untidy, they find brushes left out for them to clean up after themselves. George's footsteps are heard daily, and he wanders through locked doors with cheerful abandon. So, if you visit the Guildhall, make sure to say hello to George. It's not easy admitting you've been haunted or experienced the unexplained. Today's tale takes us to the Playhouse Cinema. Converted from a corn exchange in 1911, the Playhouse is a Grade 2 listed building. One morning, the owner felt compelled to visit the building early, only to find it full of thick smoke. Even though the power was off, all the appliances, including the hob and oven, were on and hot. The electric was not connected. And later, a staff member locking up for the evening walked into a cold spot and found himself unable to move, as though he was glued to the floor. Although it lasted only a few seconds, he vowed never to return. People have been so afraid here, witnessing shadowy figures, strange aromas, and terrible feelings. So if you pass by, don't go alone. Beverley has a long history of monks. With plague pits beneath the stations, the monks used to carry the bodies along Monk Walk to the burial pits. This pub, named after the monks, has had numerous instances of staff reporting hooded, cloaked figures, and of pints pulled after hours, and that unshakable feeling of being watched. The tannery, to the north of the Minster, is often the passing place of two robed figures who, when spoken to, don't seem to hear. Meanwhile, on the south side of the Minster lies an old jail. It is here where more figures are seen gliding silently through the walls. If you visit Beverley, keep an eye out for these often seen but never heard gentlemen. King's Head Hotel sits in the middle of Saturday Marketplace in Beverley. The old inn was renovated during the 1980s and acquired the little butcher's shop next door. The shop came an entity known only as the Man. Late one night, as the manager was locking up, he saw the figure of a man leaning against the old fireplace. Thinking it was a customer locked in, he approached, but as his view was momentarily obscured, the man disappeared. A search revealed the pub empty and fully locked. The man appears frequently to staff, patrons, and to those staying at the inn. Dressed in 1930s clothing, reminiscent of a farmhand, he's a peaceful chap, just passing through for a pint at the end of a long day. Spirits need a little refreshment. Today's tale takes place at an undisclosed location close to Driffield. A young woman was asleep in her room when she was awoken to the sound of someone walking across the floor. She was petrified when she opened her eyes to see an old man with a peculiar shaped nose limping across the room. Unable to scream, she remained staring at him until he disappeared through the wall. In Initially thinking it was a dream, she realised the truth when he continued to appear for a further 4 months until, exhausted, she demanded he leave. He turned to look at her and uttered one word. Why? Eventually, he faded away into nothingness, and that house has been quiet ever since. Along this ordinary road lie 2 houses with 2 incidents of extraordinary things. The first comes from an anonymous source. This house has a passageway between that house and the next, leading to the back door. Here, a shadow passes, heading towards the door, but no knock is ever heard. While leaving one evening, a guest passed someone on this pathway, someone walking towards the door. A later conversation revealed no one had been there. A second house, a second passageway. Residents tell of footsteps that walk towards the door only to disappear before a knock is heard. Inside, rocking chairs rock on their own, strong smells of old perfume fill the air, and furniture changes position overnight. In these houses, the unseen is very much there. Things have always happened at Lady Legros on the east side of Norwood. The tavern has existed on the site since the late 1800s. Before that, the site was home to a clay pipe factory, with fragments still being unearthed. At a landlord's handover in 1987, a photograph is taken. Amongst the cheery faces appears that of a cavalier. When shown, the landlord laughed it off until light bulbs started exploding and horse brasses fell from the walls. New landlords again soon arrived. They experienced gas turning off, feelings of unease, and doors locking on unwitting patrons. The inn has changed hands many times and has since closed, but still in that area, spirits remain. The view from the window was as picturesque as a Christmas card. The trees and shrubs bowed under the weight of a night's snow. Our storyteller noticed the thick blanket of snow had covered his car and contemplated his journey to work. In the early hour, the snow lay undisturbed. Our witness ventured outside to clear the car and driveway. Whilst out there, he bid a well-wrapped-up passerby good morning, and they exchanged a word about the weather. The walker moved on. Seconds later, his car now clear, he turned and realised the visitor had disappeared. He left no footprints, the snow being as blank as a piece of paper. With no one in sight in any direction, he wondered who or what he had just encountered. As well as reading matter at the Central Library in Hull, there is also a wealth of film entertainment at the Hull Film Theatre tucked away within the library complex. From this cinema comes our next story. Peter was the theatre's longest-serving projectionist and technician. Unfortunately, in 1984, after a short illness, Peter passed away, and sadly with him went a wealth of cinematic knowledge. Year after his death, the new projectionist on duty at time, Jamie, was working in the room. He suddenly became aware of a shadow man on the wall in front of him. He heard a voice from the shadow which said, "Tell Margaret I'm all right." Jamie had never met Peter, but he knew instantly who this apparition was. After the show, Peter told of his experience and learnt that Margaret, Peter's widow, had indeed been in the audience that afternoon.